Stars, unfortunately, 0 for 2 in the Sunshine State. Hey, everybody, it's Gavin Spittle with this Spits and Suds post-game show on 105.3 The Fan. Thank you so much for listening and supporting Spits and Suds. Stars, unfortunately, in the doldrums right now, going through a tough stretch, and we're going to talk about it. We got a couple of Twitter questions that we'll answer. And that's what we do after these games. But, I don't want to sit here and pound the table, but at the same time, we're talking about the same things every single game, and that's a problem because it'd be one thing if we were saying, "Well, tonight this didn't look good," but every night we're talking about this defensive core, and once again, that first defensive pairing of Heiskanen and Suter, and you saw it toward the end of the game get broken up. It just wasn't there, and the one thing I did want to point out is I just I want to ask Craig about this. I just think their spacing is off. I think Miro is looking to make plays rather than covering, his side. But, at the same time, they're letting people get behind them. They're not winning puck battles along the board. This is your number one defense pairing. And you look tonight, where is your number one pairing going to be? It's going to be against their best line, and that's Rodriguez, Barkov, and Reinhart. That line had 4 goals and 5 assists tonight. That line dominated the Stars, and the Stars had no answer. And I think that's an ongoing issue that we continue to talk about is the defensive struggles. And it happened again tonight. And honestly, your goalie gives up 5. I think there are some questions. But I got to tell you, I think Jake Ottinger played pretty well. The high quality chances that teams are having against Jake Ottinger this year is there's just too many. It's one thing if your goalie, you can see, and Bobrovsky probably let up one tonight that, was a little bit loose. But at the same time, I just feel like Jake Ottinger needs to be the hero night after night. And that's just not necessary. Your defense has to be better. So let's go through it. Let's answer some of your questions. And here's the other thing that makes me nervous about this Stars team. I went through the schedule tonight. Give me more than 1 or 2 quality wins, maybe 3 that the Stars have had this year. Pittsburgh, they won 4-1. Pittsburgh is a fringe playoff team. At Winnipeg and then home for Winnipeg. I'm sorry, at Winnipeg twice. So you won in Winnipeg twice. Other than that, and you beat the New York Rangers on November 20th. But that's it. And Pittsburgh and Winnipeg are good teams, but you've lost to Vegas. You've lost to the Panthers. You've lost to Colorado. So I got to be honest, now looking at this Stars team, I'm starting to change my tune a little bit. I had this as a Stanley Cup contender. I hope that maybe I'm hitting the panic button a little bit. And if Sean was with me, he'd tell me that. Calm down. Don't hit the panic button. And if you follow him on his Substack, Shap Shots, he wrote a great article today saying, don't hit the panic button. However, my hand is hovering over that panic button because I just look at the quality of wins and I say, this schedule has been pretty easy for this Stars team. They've had plenty of rest in between games. And now when you're getting into some more meat into this schedule, you're dropping games that you probably shouldn't. So you had a day off yesterday after getting shut out against Tampa. And just to put it in perspective, because I've made the trip, it's a wonderful trip, Stars fans. If you ever want to do it, go to two games that are awesome to go to is Tampa and Florida. The Stars always play them back to back. Sometimes it starts in Florida, but it usually starts in Tampa. But the trip itself by car is only, I think, 3.5 hours. It's actually through the Florida Everglades because Florida is not in Miami. It's in Sunrise, which is just underneath the Florida Everglades. Little geography lesson there. So by plane, that's what, 45 minutes to an hour? So you should have had ample rest. So explain to me how you came out flat. Once again, you came out flat. I can argue that you were flat for 2 periods. So you might say to yourself, hey, great effort, keeping it close, tying the game in the third period, 3 goals in the third period. Way to go, Stars. And I would agree with you. They didn't give up. But at the same time, you were not good in the first and second period. You started the game out with 6 shots. I think maybe 2 were high quality chances, but then they came down and a stretch pass right behind Suter and Heiskanen. Rodriguez goes blocker side. And then all of a sudden it's 1-0 Florida. Momentum completely changed. So the other thing I want to talk about, because I think Florida is a good example. The unrestricted free agent class was not great this year, but Florida lost some players. And this is the Eastern Conference champion. So they lost a major part of their defense, their physicality, and Radko Gudas. They lost Anthony Duclair, but they made some under the radar signings in Dmitry Kulikov, Oliver Ekman-Larsson once again, and 27-year-old Nico Mikkola, who played really well tonight. And they replaced the physicality with more physicality. And I think that's a great thing to keep into perspective in that Florida lost some key players, but brought in some key players. And I think Duchesne is terrific, and that's been a great acquisition, although he's really cooled off lately. However, there was an opportunity in the offseason to fix this defense. And if it wasn't UFA and you truly think that you're a Stanley Cup contender, then I think you have to make a trade. You have draft collateral. You have a first round draft pick this year. You have a first round draft pick next year. You have a second round pick this year. So you could have put a package together to maybe get that defenseman that could make a difference. But you're up against the cap now. You're struggling where you can't even bring people up from the AHL. So right now your roster is set. And I think the other thing is, if I'm Lundqvist and I'm a healthy scratch, I'm looking down on this team and saying, how much worse can I be? I mean, I'm looking at this defensive core, and I don't think Nils Lundqvist makes it that much worse. But Dodonov played well tonight. I give him a lot of credit. Good that he came back, played really well. But unfortunately, the Stars drop to 5-4, and they'll be in Washington tomorrow night. We did get some questions tonight. Didn't ask for it, but I love the fact that you guys are asking them during the game and after. And Jordan Harper, our Spits and Suds regular, says it sucks to say because I had really high hopes for Ty Dellandrea when Jim Nill looks to upgrade. Will we be talking about Ty Dellandrea going in return? When thinking about the cap situation and the lack of draft picks, Ty might be the most valuable option for another team. I mean, he is a former first-round pick, so that does have some cachet, so to speak. but I don't think that necessarily tied to Landry alone gets you somebody. If you have to throw him in based on salary, that's fine. But teams more and more they want those draft picks. So those first round picks that you have great value, and that's what teams want first, Jordan. They want those top draft picks. So even if they're low because of where Dallas finishes, they're still in the first round. So I think that's where Dallas has to go. And with more draft picks, or higher draft picks, I should say, what happens is that teams will retain enough salary so that Dallas can bring that player on, so it helps against the salary cap.
I'm Snoop Dogg, and I'm giving up smoke. I know what you're thinking. Snoop, smoke is kind of your whole thing. But I'm done with it. I'm done with the coughing and my clothes smelling all funky. I'm going smokeless. Solo stove, fix 5. They took out the smoke. Now you can have a nice blaze without any clouds ruining your day. Go smokeless. Go to solostove.com. Tell them Big Snoop Dogg sent you.
Chris Barnard at cbarnard82. If you had to trade one of Robertson, Wyatt Johnston, Maverick Bork, or Logan Stankoven to get a Jacob Chikrin, would you, and who would it be? Won't be able to keep all of them, just like we had to move Neal once. That's James Neal. Once upon a time to get Goligoski, an overpayment, but I digress. It wasn't just James Neal. It was also Matt Niskanen, who went on to have a great career, won a cup, and James Neal turned out to be a good player. So that deal did not turn out like Dallas wanted. Goligoski was, good in Pittsburgh, but came here. He's had a long career. I just don't think if you're asking me who is better, Goligoski or Matt Niskanen as far as defensemen, I'd have to give that some thought. And the fact that I have to give it some thought means that I think the trade, while probably needed at the time, I just, I think it was, probably a losing effort for the Stars in there. So personally, I would not trade Robertson. I would not trade Wyatt Johnston. I would not trade Maverick Bork, and I would not trade Logan Stankoven. Jacob Chikrin only has one more year left on his deal after this year. That's not enough time for me to give up one of my big guns, and all 4 of them are big guns. Can they all fit in the salary cap? They sure can, because Bork and Stankoven are on lower deals. So you are going to have to make some space available, and maybe you do have to say, goodbye to one of your veterans that's up this year. I mean, that would be inevitable. I don't think it's going to be Joe Pavelski. I think he'll stick around. But it's one of those things that, you might have to say, Matt Duchene, terrific. Thank you so much, but we got to move on, and then bring up the kids and see what they can do. So I think they probably go in that direction. Rudy, good to hear from you at CUHZ. Rudy, tough loss tonight. Showed great fight in the third, but just allowed their playmakers too much space onto Washington. Yeah, I think that is something that is really interesting, and that's the different styles. If you look at Florida, and if you wanted to rewatch the game at points, how often did the Stars put pressure on their defensemen in their zone to slow them down, deep forechecks, to cause a little havoc in the Florida zone? You didn't see it much. And I think, the physicality missing in Dallas is really showing at this point, because you saw the physicality out of Florida tonight, and that's how they're built. Now, can Florida do that throughout the season? I actually think they can, because they're built that way. And when you build a physical team with physical players, they can sustain that. They won't be there every night, but at the same time, Florida is one of those teams you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to feel as though you played Florida. They're a heavy team. And what heavy means is they're tough on the boards. They're going to win puck battles. They're going to push you around. When they have the opportunity, they're going to be physical on you. I will say, and do I think it was the biggest difference in this game? No. But the penalty called on Sam Steele in the third period, which led to the game-winning goal, I don't understand what the referee was looking at. Steele was pushed down into the crease, got back up, and once again cross checked. And there were 2 or 3 times before Steele just did a cross check of himself. I really do feel, and I hate saying this because, like I said, was it the major difference in the game? No, it wasn't. The Stars should have played better in the first 2 periods. However, when you looked at the minute disparity as far as the number of times that Florida was in the box as compared to Dallas, boy, I just feel like that penalty was coming. You know how you're watching a hockey game and you're like, you got to maximize getting all these power play opportunities because, they're going to call one on us soon. And that's what happened. I really do feel that way because there's no way that Steele initiated that contact. He didn't continue the contact, but as soon as he kind of pushed back, immediately the hand was raised. So I think that's unfortunate because that led to the game-winning goal. I think the final 2 goals were bad breaks. Um, you know, I think Rodriguez got a lucky puck bounce. Suter was supposed to be there. Suter blocked the shot, but it went right to Rodriguez. I don't think Ottinger could see him. And I think that bad bounce against the boards, that happens in hockey, and it especially happens when things aren't going well for you. Let's see. World Series fan Ken Pitch Clock. I like that. At Brandon F. Dub. By the way, don't know if you guys know, but the Rangers won the World Series. Just like to throw that in there. Miro does what at GJ Spittle wants him to do more and shoot on the power play. I do want that. Results in several good looks that Bobrovsky shut down, but yes, more of that Miro. I think he does need to be a threat on the power play. I'm going to throw a wild card at you. I think Thomas Harley should get some more playing time on the power play. I think Thomas Harley should get some first unit time. And even if that means if you go Miro Harley. Do you realize that Thomas Harley has more goals on the blue line for the Stars than all of the Stars D-men combined? He's been really good this year. And you know what? He has some lapses and he's learning to play better defensively. But this is someone that they hit on as a first round pick, and he's turned out really, really well. I mean, should he have saved it? Yeah, absolutely. Went right underneath his pads. But good players find ways to score goals. And that's what Thomas Harley's doing. I mean, you saw how many times Miro shot tonight where it couldn't get through. And, defensemen sometimes can find their way through that mess that's in front of the net. And that's what's happening with Thomas Harley this year. Let's see. Cameron Teague says, let's see. It's a whole thread. Um, so he said the other day, just listening to the podcast, man, I hate the backwards thinking in hockey sometimes. So Dellandrea needs to be scratched for one mistake, yet others can make hundreds and have no worry of being scratched. Make it make sense. Well, I mean, the reality is, Cameron, that salary dictates a lot of that. And that was a major mistake that Ty Dellandrea made the other night. It was in a big moment. I do like Ty Dellandrea a lot. Sam Steele has been more consistent. You saw tonight when Sagan went down, and we'll see if he can go tomorrow night. Wouldn't be surprised if he couldn't, but Sagi is a gamer. One of the things is that Sam Steele was the one that got called up onto that line. So he was wondering, maybe sit Suter or Yanni Hakanpää for a game. But the reality is that then you lose 2 guys on your special teams. Shorthanded, Florida did score tonight on the power play, but the Stars have one of the best kills in the league. And, you don't want to upset that apple card. That's one of your strengths as a team because you do take a lot of penalties. Cameron he wants to see a reset. I absolutely give it to you, Cameron. I don't blame you. A nice refresh would look good. He points out that he wants to put Thomas Harley on some PK time. I just understand, PK is taught a lot, and you, I think everyone knows how to do it, but your veterans are working as units on that penalty kill. So to throw someone in there, it might throw things off. So putting Harley in that situation, I think his defensive game needs to develop some more. I actually do think Yanni Hakanpää is really good on the penalty kill. He uses his size and his big stick. So I think Hakanpää is good on there. Um, I I don't think Suter's having an awful year. I said from day one, Ryan Suter on a third line pairing, I'm okay with that. Ryan Suter getting all these minutes with Miro Heiskanen, I think that's the problem. He gets worn down. I mean, we look at Ryan Suter and we don't look at his age and we don't look at all the minutes that he's logged as an NHL defenseman. So if I lessen Ryan Suter's minutes, I think he'd be much fresher. So those are the questions for tonight. I really appreciate it. Stars, go at it again tomorrow. Here's the upcoming schedule, and it's a doozy. So the Caps tomorrow night, I would expect Wedgwood in net. And then on Saturday, Golden Knight Stars, nice afternoon tilt at the AAC, a rare home game. And then right back at it against the up and coming Detroit Red Wings on Monday. And then they have some time off as they take on the Senators once again at home on Friday. So a couple of tough games coming up with the Caps, who are playing much better, got off to a really bad start, but they're playing much better right now, followed by the Knights and the Red Wings. And we likely will see Patrick Kane in a Red Wings sweater by them as he is set to go maybe as early as tomorrow night against the Sharks. So that's going to do it for me. I did want to remind you tomorrow we'll talk to former assistant GM Frank Provenzano of the Dallas Stars. He was also the assistant GM with the Washington Capitals, worked with the Vancouver Canucks. Frank is an absolutely amazing storyteller. And just to give you some kind of a preview of some of the things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about being in the draft room when the Dallas Stars selected Jack Campbell instead of veteran goalie who's had an outstanding career for the Mighty Ducks, Cam Fowler, who has played numerous years and never played in the minors and went right to the NHL. And we know the Jack Campbell story. We're also going to talk about the Mike Modano decision because Frank was a part of the club when the team decided that, Mike Modano, we're going to trade Mike Modano. So I want to go inside and get that insight, managing through bankruptcy. Frank is going to talk about the team and all the trades they made in Washington so they could tank to get Alex Ovechkin. So there's just so many great stories, and I'm really looking forward to it. And, it's one thing to have stories, but Frank is a great storyteller and he doesn't hold back. So expect that thing to be released tomorrow afternoon or into tomorrow evening. It's a great podcast, and I'm super excited to bring it to you guys. Hey, this is going to be a great December for Spits and Suds. We got some more great interviews coming up. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Unfortunately, has not been a great start to December by the Dallas Stars. Minus that 8-1. They are now, 1-2 in the month of December. So drop to the Panthers, 5-4. Back at it again tomorrow night. Thank you so much for listening and supporting Spits and Suds, and we'll talk to you soon.